All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar tonight. We're so happy to see so many of you joining us. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Nautical Institute at NSCC and our Bridge Watch rating program. So I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement. NSCC is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown, dating back to 1725. As treaty beneficiaries, we recognize that we are all treaty people. NSCC also recognizes the African Nova Scotians as a distinct group who arrived here 400 years ago. From that time on, they have contributed to the infrastructure and economic wealth of the towns and cities they helped to build, but from which they could not benefit. Let us learn about how our respective communities were shaped by the historical contributions of the African Nova Scotians to Mi'kma'ki. So just a quick housekeeping slide to start off. So this is a webinar. If it's your first NSCC webinar that you're attending, your cameras are turned off and your microphones are muted, so we can't see or hear you. But you will be able to use the question box that's located in the control panel of your screen. We're happy to answer your questions at the end of the webinar tonight. If you have questions that you think of later on tonight or tomorrow or within the week, you can email recruitment@nscc.ca and we're happy to answer your questions then as well. Also, if you have any questions about your particular application, so whether we received your transcript or a question about where you are in the process, also best to email us at recruitment@nscc.ca and we're happy to look into it a little further for you. All right, so today we are going to be talking about the Bridge Watch rating program. I have a few guests that will be joining me shortly. This program has a start date this January, so January 2024, and also it happens every September, and it's a 26-week program and within our Nautical Institute. So I'm going to get my guests to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves. I'll go first. So my name is Jessica and I'm a student recruitment coordinator at NSCC and I work particularly in the Nautical Institute. So we'll go with Jared next.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jared David. I'm the Bridge Watch rating instructor, and I have a little background. Most of my background's in the Navy, and I've done some time on the civvy side with tugs and supply ships and ferries. So been around the block a little bit. Master, I've done a lot of things, but I haven't seen everything yet. But it's an interesting industry, put it that way.
Great, thanks. And Abby and Ashley.
Hi. I'm Ashley. I'm just a student. I started taking the Bridge Watch rating program this September, and with Abby, classmate, and we're going to be finished up in December. Then we're on to our sea time.
Yep. My name's Abby, as Ashley said, and I'm also a student, and we have been, feels like flying through the 26 weeks. I don't even know where they all went. And we both have a background in fishing and decide to kind of change up our routes and stay on the ocean, but just in a different way. But we're enjoying it so far.
Great. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, this is a Bridge Watch rating webinar. So we're going to be talking all things Bridge Watch. So we will start with NSCC. So the Nova Scotia Community College is located on the eastern coast of Canada, for those that aren't familiar. What sets NSCC apart from other colleges or universities is that we're very focused on graduate employment. So any program that you take at NSCC will have a work term or a sea time component. And when you graduate, you can enter right into the industry or career that you choose. We have locations across Nova Scotia, and I'll get into that on the next slide. We have very specialized programs. So even the Bridge Watch rating that we're going to be talking about tonight is very, very specialized. And we have other programs at other campuses that are quite specialized as well. A lot of our programs have pretty significant hands-on components. So you're not necessarily just sitting in a classroom all day. You're working in a lab or a shop or out in the community. small class sizes. So a lot of our classes have about a cap of about 20 students, so you'll get a very personalized experience. And our instructors, as Jared mentioned in his introduction, have real-world experience in the courses and programs that they're teaching. So lots of great reasons to choose NSCC. And here's just a map of Nova Scotia to give you an idea of just how spread out we are. So we have campuses located in Halifax. We have 3 campuses in the Halifax area, and also other campuses in more rural parts of the province. But for today's purposes, we're going to be talking about the Strait area campus and the Nautical Institute. That's where most of our marine programs are offered. We have a few that are offered at the School of Fisheries down in Shelburne, but Bridgewatch rating is only offered at the Strait area campus. So a bit about the campus. It's located in Port Hawkesbury, so that's just at the entry point of Cape Breton Island. And we have a satellite campus at the Wagmatcook Learning Center as well. That campus tends to have one-off programs, so sometimes they'll offer carpentry or a distributed model of continuing care. And it's home to the Nautical Institute in Port Hawkesbury. So you'll definitely notice a seafaring vibe if you ever come onto our campus. We're close to all the trail systems in Cape Breton. We have a Maui Theater, which is where we host our campus events and cultural activities. We have a student population of about 540. And yeah, so we're home to the Nautical Institute, but we also have other programs at this campus. A big draw for this campus is that we do have housing. We're one of 3 campuses in the province right now with housing. It's a 51-bed facility. Most of them are 3-bedroom suites, so you have your own bedroom and then you share kitchen and bathroom facility. So it's really nice to have this option on campus because housing is difficult to find right now in Nova Scotia. So if you have a room that's just steps away from your classes, that's even better. So yeah, it's a great amenity to have on campus. If you're looking to join us for any of our nautical programs, I'd recommend applying early as it does tend to fill up, but a great addition to our campus. So NSCC in general has lots of programs. We have over 140, and you can see all the different industries and fields below here. Again, today we're going to be focusing on our marine programming, but you can see there's lots of other options too, but today we'll be focusing on careers at sea. So for the Bridgewatch rating program in general, for admission requirements, you only need a high school diploma. So there's no prerequisite courses that are required or an average that's required. You just have to have earned your high school diploma or equivalent. So equivalent could be your adult learning program certificate, a GED, or completion of any additional assessments. And different from admission requirements is a program requirement. So program requirement means something that has to be completed by the time you complete the program. So for this program in particular, you need your Transport Canada Marine Medical Certificate, criminal record check, and a portfolio. A portfolio is just kind of a gathering spot for all of the learning that you do throughout the year. You just kind of compile it all in one physical binder or one place, just to kind of reflect back on everything that you've learned. And now I'm going to pass it off to our faculty, Jared David, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the ins and outs of the program and career options and what a day in the life looks like as a Bridgewatch student.
Hello again. Yeah, so we typically use a combination of real life experience and applied learning to teach theory. So I've been in the marine field for quite a while. So when I can take that experience and kind of relate to you guys, my experiences and that to help you foster and start your career. So it works pretty well. I don't know, can I advance the slides, Jennifer? Or?
I'll advance them for you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so what's a typical week like here when our students are in school? Basically, we have we get a lot of practical seamanship and basic chart work built into the program. Those are your main two courses that are built into the big course, and that's practical seamanship. So they spend time in the shop. They do some theory time as well. It's divided, right? Some shop, some theory. So they get hands-on learning rope work, learning knots and splicing and whippings and all kinds of fun stuff. Everybody seems to like the practical seamanship because they get to do practical stuff, and it's not, in the classroom, in the classroom as such. It's more like a shop. So which is good. And then you do some basic chart work and pilotage. So when you do get on ships, you have an idea what they're doing on the bridge, because that's what you're training for, is not only to be a deckhand and do the stuff that the deckhand does, like working lines or painting or maintenance. You also are doing bridge watches, so they want you to have a little bit of knowledge of what goes on with the chart work on the bridge. Although a lot of it's electronic now, the old stuff is still the backup, and I think it'll always be the backup. So, and then we have another our small course called Ship and Marine Industry Familiarization that familiarizes you with ships and the terminology in the ship, the same as the safety procedures and regulations. More touches more on regulations, but it also gives you some of that terminology and stuff that you're going to use when you get on board your ship. So that is a typical week. So they're pretty busy, and yeah, they can tell you they're kept busy. I do most of our work in the daytime, but sometimes they have a little bit on the homework to do too, but not too much. We try and keep it easy on them. So we go to the next slide, Jennifer. Safety training. So when you do get on the course, you're going to do what's called your basic safety and proficiency in survival craft. So you'll learn all the safety training so that when you get on a vessel, you are part of that team. When you get out on the ocean and that, you can't just call the fire department, and the fire department's going to come up and help you, right? So as the crew, you have that responsibility for the safety of the vessel. And as part of that stuff, you will learn firefighting, and you will learn small boats and light boats and man overboards or person overboard. So it's pretty cool. It's fun. It's a lot of it's practical. You do have some theory built into it, but they try and have it, half and half theory, and then you're going to apply your practical part to it. But it's a good course. It's a very fun course to do. And next slide, please. Okay, so workload and evaluation. So what's the course workload like? Workload is not heavy, but you will need to review notes and assignments and handouts and previous tests to pass the course. You'll have a combination of take home and in-class assignments, and you will receive lots of information that the students can tell you. They get an information overload as part of their trade. So it's pretty good information though. What is the homework expectation? You will be given at least 2 days to complete assignments, and you may receive a mark of 0 if you take more than 2 days to complete your work. And what about testing? You'll be tested 2 to 3 times a week, if I can stick to that. Sometimes it's a little less, but you will be tested 2 or 3 times a week throughout the course. You'll have tests. You also have exams. You have a midterm exam and a final exam before the course ends at the end of it. So, but they're not too hard. They're not too hard. If you study a little bit, you shouldn't have a problem. And next slide, please, Jennifer. Workload continued. Am I able to work part-time? I've had a couple of students that have been on the course and they tried to work part-time as they're going through the course, and they ended up having to leave it because they just couldn't balance both. Depends on what kind of person you are, or whether, maybe you may not have that trouble, but if you don't have to study and you retain your information pretty good. So is work all theory or is it practical? No, there's a lot of theory, but there's also a lot of practical work built into the course, especially with the chart work and the seamanship, so which is pretty good. And how is your mark determined? Marks are determined by a percentage to make up the final mark. For example, midterms would be work out to be 20% of your final mark. Final exams would be 30 or 40% of your final mark, and tests may be 5 or 10% of the final mark, and it totals up to 100%. So it's not too bad. It's as long as you study in that. The math is pretty well basic math. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you should have no problems. And next slide, please, Jennifer. Okay, so just got a few pictures here to show you. This is a bridge of a commercial ferry or vessel. This is one I worked on called the Blue Petits, and this is one of the ports, Newfoundland, Port of Basque. Very beautiful place in that, but just want to share a couple of the memories I had of working on the vessel. Working on the bridge can be pretty hectic, and there's lots of stuff on the go. So you got to be a good multitasker as well when you're doing watches on the bridge, but they are fun for the most part. You know, you do your job, keep a good lookout, and you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. Next slide. Okay, textbook, equipment, certifications, and tools. There is one reference book called Seamanship Techniques, the fifth edition. You will be given this book at the start of the course. That's part of your course, and it's mostly just for reference. So you don't really have a lot of textbooks other than the ones, the small booklets and that we give out, and they are free of charge. What would you wear for clothing? Well, at times you're going to have to use CSA approved work boots, safety glasses, and work gloves. And prior to the course, as Jennifer said earlier, you will need to go to your nearest RCMP detachment and get a criminal records check completed. You have to have that as well. You'll have to make an appointment with the nearest Transport Canada doctor examiner to get your seafarer's medical completed. You need a valid Canadian passport, because in some cases, the vessels you're going to train on will go to US waters, so you will have to have a passport for that if that happens, especially working up in the Great Lakes. A lot of them are in between Canadian and US cities as part of their work. Complete a resume, you will need one of those, so we can hopefully get those resumes out to the companies and that to try and get you some practical time, right? And Bridgewatch rating, you need at least 60 days at sea, and that's at sea to finish your course. So you'll have to talk to a Transport Canada office to get a candidate document number, and that's a file number so that all your qualifications and that, when you do get them, you can take them into the Transport Canada office, and they keep a record of all your qualifications, so they know if you're out on good standing. Tools for the course are supplied at no cost. Equipment to include charts, chart tools, course booklets. Some equipment must be returned at the end of the course because we use them for the other courses. And that would be it for that. So next slide. Here's a bulk cargo ship. Just give you an idea. This is one that actually ties up not far from the school. There's a quarry there, and they fill up. They carry gravel and that to different places. It'd be surprised where all that gravel's going to from there, but that is a bulk cargo ship that can self-unload. Pretty interesting ship, and they do a lot of heavy work, that's for sure. And we'll go on to the next slide. So working in this field, job and career opportunities. So there are many in Canada here. Many older seafarers are getting ready to retire, basically. And that's going to open up many opportunities in the marine sector. Many companies will be hiring. As a matter of fact, they're starting to look for people already. Depending on the time of year, less chance during the winter months because a lot of vessels tie up for the winter. Companies are usually willing to take on training cadets in order to get their certification. And if it works out well, you will usually end up getting an offer of employment. Not saying it happens all the time, but there is a good chance. If they like you, they like your work ethic and that, they will definitely retain you. Work in the field can be hectic. Some watches are 6 to 12 hours long with an equal amount of rest. Depending on the company or ship, you could be required to cook a meal or even enter an enclosed space. You should have certification for that, but it's always interesting where sometimes you get different parts of the ships there. You got to be careful. You'll be asked many times to use your emergency skills, like through your basic safety and proficiency in survival craft, and the PSC course during drills and exercises once you get on board ship, as they do them fairly often, the drills and exercises. So take it as a good thing. It's giving you an opportunity to learn, and the more you learn, the better the chances are a ship to survive an incident. And as a deckhand, you are the specialist operating many different pieces of equipment, all the winches and that out on the decks and that is your workplace. That's where you'll work, and you'll get to know them. And each ship is different, so you got to get to know each ship as you do go throughout your career. Options, many companies offer many options depending on their fleet of vessels. You could get employment working on a supply ship or a tanker, and even ferries. Companies offer many incentives and extra training. So make sure you research their offers and ask questions. I had a variety of my students working on lots of different ships. So far, I have a couple working on tugs, some on supply ships, a couple on ferries with more working in the Coast Guard, the Canadian Coast Guard. And I have one working on a Navy supply ship. They have civilians on board there, and she's working there. And currently that ship is over off Asia, or she's operating over there in the Pacific and that. And she's having quite the experience and visiting lots of different places. It's interesting because I get texts from her or pictures every so often. She just loves it. So they're doing well. They're doing well. So, and that's good. So next slide, please, Jen. And this is the ship that my student works on, the Navy ship there. That's Naval Replenishment Unit Asterix. It was actually at one time a container ship, and they converted it to a tanker, which was pretty neat. They did it fairly quickly in about 9 months, but she's doing pretty well, and she's holding her own in the fleet. So that's pretty cool. So you can get it. You don't know what ship you're going to work on. It can be different types, and that's the exciting part. And I think that's it for that one, Jennifer. And there you go. We'll pass it over. I'll give it back to Jennifer, and she can take it from there.
All right, thanks so much, Jared. I'm
No
going to pass it off now to Abby and Ashley, and they're just going to tell you a little bit about their experience as students in the Bridgewatch Trading Program.
Yeah, so the first thing we wanted to talk about was a couple tips kind of to give everyone. It can sound really overwhelming when talking about all of this, and it sounds like there's so many different aspects to it. But the main thing to keep in mind is ask a lot of questions. Jared and all the faculty here are the easiest people, so easygoing. They really know how to answer a question, and Lord knows we ask a lot.
It is a really good environment. There's a lot of help here. Our class is really small. I think Bridgewatch usually only goes up to what, 10 or 12 people?
Yeah, 10 to 12.
We only have 5. We've all become really close though. And yeah, ask questions. We ask each other all the time. We torment each other. We love bugging Jared. So just ask questions. Don't ever feel like one's too stupid to ask, because it's not. Better to know than not know it all.
When you start this course, as I mentioned, you have to get a bunch of things done, like get your CDN number, your marine medical, and just a bunch of things to get done before you kind of come. It's easier if you get it done before trying to get here and do it all here. Especially if you're from away and not a local, it's a little bit harder. So if you do all that, make sure you kind of keep it all in one area, maybe in a binder or a folder, somewhere where you know you're gonna be able to find it quickly, because you're gonna need it. And yeah, just try to get them all done quickly and have fun. Have a lot of fun doing this course. I know we do. Some days are going to be tough, and that's when we can talk about our training. When you first get into the course, of course, we cover many different hands-on types of training, like the MEDs and the STCWs and
Learning first aid.
Yeah.
Also too, when you come, we do a lot of work on this portal called Brightspace. There's like WMIS, occupational health and safety. What else? Confined spaces. You name it, get it done.
Yes.
Your teacher will thank you for it. Don't prolong it. Just get it done. That's a tip.
Yes, there's a couple to get done. They look all overwhelming when you get into them, but they're actually really quick and easy and simple to navigate. That's a really good thing about them. And once again, with those, if you ever have questions, ask. It's not too difficult. If you want to go to the next slide, you can. Hands-on. We do lots of hands-on learning. I think that's one of our favorite courses is practical seamanship. That's when we learn all of our knots and our splicing and whippings and you name it. We typically have to wear certain things in the shop though. If you want to kind of cover those.
So we always need to have our coveralls. They can range on, if somebody doesn't know, me and Abby were just talking about this, not knowing what to get when you come in. I know we have just your average Dickies kind of mechanic type coveralls, but if you want like a pair of bibs like Carhartts, I think they're acceptable as well. You can have like long sleeve, short sleeve. Your steel toe boots, you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. If you want, you can get blunt stones as long as it's steel toe. because you need your gloves, your glasses.
Just thin, whatever's going to be easier to work with your rope, just things like that. And it's pretty basic. It sounds overwhelming, but once you get here, everything kind of falls into place and everyone kind of points you in the right direction, and it all makes sense once you get here.
On that slide, there's just a few of the examples of like, so the first slide, that's a hard splice with a thimble. Then we have a monkey's knot. We use that for heaving. That's intense. Not too many of us can do that. Abby has mastered it. It's another, that's another splice there, an eye splice. And then we just have a fisherman's bend.
Yes.
So yeah, just a different type of hitch. There's not too many knots that it seems overwhelming again, but it's not.
And nobody comes into this knowing everything. All of us came in here with, we only have background of fishing, and a couple of them actually don't have background in pretty much anything, just knowing a family doing stuff. So don't feel as if you need to have a background on the ocean already. Just hopefully you don't get seasick and you'll figure out the rest and you'll learn it. Yeah, I think that's all from us, really.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, we have a couple questions coming through. We'll get them at the end of the webinar. But thanks so much for sharing your experience. Always super helpful.
Thanks.
All right. So this, I think, is just the group of Bridgewatch rating students for this year, maybe on a field trip. So yeah, it's just like Abby and Ashley mentioned, it is a small class size, so very personalized one-on-one instruction. So great if that's kind of an environment that you thrive in. It's a great program to consider. So the not so fun stuff, we're going to talk a little bit about the tuition costs and fees. So tuition for this program is more than your typical NSCC program. So it is $11,000 for the 26 weeks. The fees would be things like your parking pass or your medical and dental plan, things like that you can't really avoid. Costs is showing as $1,320. That would be things like, I think everyone mentioned the coveralls and the steel toe boots, anything like that. Your marine medical certificate is included in that cost. Also included in that is the bulk of that cost. We do budget in a computer, but if you already have a laptop or a computer, then you can take that cost away. I think we budget around $800 to $900 for a computer. So if you already have one, you can take that off your budget. So in total, it's between $11,000 and $12,000 to take this program. So just kind of to keep in mind if you're considering. If you go to the program fee page for Bridgewatch rating, it'll break down all those different costs. So say if you don't have a car, you don't have to pay for a parking pass. So just kind of tailor it to your own specific situation. That being said, though, we do have lots of scholarships, bursaries, and awards available for all NSCC students. Applications are open now, and it can be based on a variety of things. So your leadership and volunteer experience, your financial need, could be just the area that you're coming from or the high school you're coming from. So there's lots of different bursaries available to students on a variety of criteria. I did want to touch on the ABUCT project briefly. So ABUCT means Ocean in Mi'kmaq, and it is a new 4-year program that we have at NSCC. It's through the Ocean Protection Plan and Transport Canada. We're able to provide funding for all women and all Indigenous students that would like to take our marine programming in particular. So for Bridgewatch in particular, we offer $10,000 in tuition funding. So if you think back to the last couple of slides, where tuition is about $11,000 to $12,000, if you get $10,000 through the award, you're looking to pay $1,000 to $2,000 for the program. So it's a really great time to get into the industry. The funding is available for all of our marine programs as well. So whether it's marine navigation or marine emergency duties, the funding is available. We also have the Ocean Living Award that's specifically for Indigenous students, and it's a $60 a day living allowance for all days that you're enrolled in a marine program. So you can use that money towards the cost of accommodations, of food, of travel, of anything really. So both of those awards are basically guaranteed for all women and Indigenous students. We do a couple checks and balances, but there isn't really a limit to the amount of awards we can award every year. So if you fall in that group, it's a great time to get into the industry. There's lots of funding available to you, and it's available through 2027. So great time to get into it. The photos are just, the one on the bottom there is all of our females that were enrolled last year in our marine programming on International Women's Day. And then the top photo is some of our marine emergency duty students in the summer taking part in a traditional knowledge workshop, making medicine pouches. So lots of cool activities happening in the marine programs. We also have high school entrance awards that are available to students. We have 26 awards for the whole province. This one you do need a 75 average, but it will cover your first year of tuition. So just something to keep in mind if you're coming right out of high school. Applications for that one opens in March. So if you're coming to Bridgewatch in January, you wouldn't be eligible for this one. But if you're coming in the fall directly from high school, you can definitely apply for this award. And just a little bit about how to apply to NSCC. If we've convinced you to apply to Bridgewatch Rating, you can apply at nscc.ca/apply. You can choose up to 2 program choices per application. So hopefully Bridgewatch is your first choice, but you can choose up to 2. And you'll include your transcript after you've submitted your application. If you're a Nova Scotia student and you are currently in high school or have graduated since 2012, you can submit your provincial student number on your application, and that way we can pull your transcripts throughout the year. And then if there's a spot available and you meet the admission requirements, then you're basically in. You'll pay your tuition deposit and then just kind of sit tight till classes start. We have a Get Started event that you might want to attend. And yeah, it's a great and easy application process. We do accept applications from grade 11 students too. So if you're a grade 11 student, we're happy to get your application a year early because admission to NSCC for most programs is based on your application date. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you get in. It's not necessarily based on how high your average is. So yeah, if you are thinking remotely about the Bridgewatch Rating Program, I'd encourage you to apply early. And yeah, it's a great program to get into. You can also stay connected with NSCC. So the Nautical Institute, we have a Facebook page, so you can follow us on there just to keep up to date with what cool things that our students are doing. For Twitter, or X, I guess it's called now, the NSCC general team has an account on there, as well as Instagram. So lots of cool things to keep up to date with what's happening at NSCC. All right, so time for some questions. Just going to take a look to see what we've had so far. All right. So there's a question here about if you have a criminal record, would you be disqualified from this course? And maybe Jared can chime in here too, but I believe it wouldn't disqualify you from taking the course. I think the only time that a criminal record might come into play would be once you go to do your sea time. Some companies might require a clear criminal record, but Jared, do you have anything to add there, or am I mistaken?
No, you're right. That's what I heard too. That it might be hard to get on with some companies, not all of them, but some of them, right? So it might limit your chances.
Okay, perfect. And another question here. Can I use my college or university marks in place of high school marks? Yes, you can. So for NSCC, you can apply for any program with either your high school or your post-secondary education. Because if you've gone to college or university, we have the understanding that you've completed high school. So you can apply for either. It might not be totally applicable for Bridgewatch, but you could apply for transfer credits if you wanted to. I'm not sure how many college or university courses would transfer for Bridgewatch, but worth a try. There's a question here about the ABUCT funding. So yeah, if you go to Careers at Sea to our website, you can get a little more information on that. It's open to all women and Indigenous students.
I know when my
Um,
son actually signed up for the program for myself, they actually just sent me an email saying that I qualified. I planned to apply anyways, and I did, but they send you an email right away saying that, like, you can receive it, and they let you know well beforehand.
I mean, same for all bursaries. Just if
Mhm.
you receive, like, we're both recipients of the ABUCT, but you still can apply for other bursaries.
Yeah.
Do it because you're going to want all the financial help you can get.
Mhm.
I know they were talking earlier about working part-time. I would say it's doable, but I mean, our days are pretty long too because everything's so condensed. We're here typically most days from 8:30 to 4:30, so keep that in mind. You do have long days, so depending on your life and how you can balance and juggle, you might want to work or you might not want to. So back to that, if you do apply and you get accepted, NSCC will send out scholarships that like apply to you. Yeah, apply for all of them because also grants too.
Exactly.
You might not even want a student loan through the government, but apply anyways because you could get grants and that's free money. So
yeah,
I mean, they've helped me this far.
You can always give them back too
Right?
if you don't need it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally. And at NSCC, there's no limit to the amount of scholarships or bursaries you can get early, so you could have everything paid for and more, and that's totally okay too.
And with the
Sorry.
criminal record, I know a good person to talk to about like things like that and seeing like how many companies may take you and stuff is Kim. Kim is very helpful when it comes to the placements. I don't know if someone wants to add her email in the chat or something. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but she is very helpful when it comes to placements and things like that. She would
Absolutely.
know a lot more than maybe we would about those things.
We were just
Yeah,
saying
I'll
too,
send her.
one place of work that you might struggle with if you have a criminal record, maybe the Coast Guard potentially. I think they're pretty thorough and do a lot of extensive checks. I think like you guys are getting
Yes.
fingerprints and
Lots
all
of-
that. So just
Lots
something
of
to think about.
screening, but most companies probably aren't, that intense.
Okay, those are really good points. I just sent Kim's email address to the student or to the person that asked the question.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So there's a question here, and I was going to bring it up too. If you're not a permanent resident of Canada, are you eligible for the program? The answer to that is that you are eligible to take the program. However, with all of our programs in the marine sector being governed by Transport Canada, Transport Canada does intend to issue certificates of competency or COCs to non-residents. So you would have to be a permanent resident or have Canadian citizenship in order to get your Transport Canada certifications. So you're welcome to take the program and then take your training back to your home country. But your home country would have to recognize NSCC's training as equivalent to their Transport Canada equivalent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A little bit of a roundabout way to answer it, but to be eligible to work on Canadian waters or within Transport Canada governed areas, you would have to have permanent residency or Canadian citizenship. All right, let's see what else they have here. So they already have their, and this is a question for you, Jared, I can tell. I already have my SDCW 6.1 and 6.2. Would I have to complete those again? And they just completed it in September. So would they complete those again as part of Bridgewatch, or could they get like a transfer credit kind of deal?
Usually they'll get a waiver. They can ask for a waiver, especially in September. Like if someone has one and it's like they're 4 years into it or whatever, and it's going to expire next year, then I would recommend getting it again. But if they just did it in September, just remind me or the instructors or whatever, and they'll get a waiver for them.
Yeah, you just like provide proof that you completed it kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I know we had a couple, or at least one of our students in our class, and he had all of, or not all, but most of his requirements, but I know he just did it anyways because it's paid for, and it just kind of renewed or like lengthened kind of the amount of time that he can have it for, and it was great team building exercises, I must say.
Yeah, always good to do a refresher.
Everybody got a whole lot closer in the class.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, another question here, and I'm not sure if I totally understand it, but it might click for one of you guys. So it says, I have a CRC that I got in January of this year. Can I use that if I apply next September, or will I need a new one? I'm not sure what a CRC is. Maybe it's a COC. Not
Criminal
sure.
record check, maybe? Criminal record
Criminal
check?
record check. There you go. Uh, so yeah, does it have to be current, like as of the time you apply to NSCC, or can it be like within the last year? That might be more of an admissions question.
Yeah, definitely
Um,
admissions. Yeah.
yeah, I think it has to be, I want to say it's within 3 months of your program starting, it has to be completed. So if it was January of this year, it might be too expired. Okay. I think that's all of our questions for tonight. But my contact info is there on the screen. So if you think of any questions later on or whenever, you can send me an email and I'm happy to dig a little deeper for you. And thanks so much for tuning into our webinar tonight. We hope we've convinced you to consider the Bridgewatch Trading Program in either January or September. And yeah, thanks so much to Jared, Abby, and Ashley for joining me tonight. You've offered lots of insight. And I hope everyone has a great evening.
Good luck, everybody.
Great,
later.
thank you.
All right. Good night.